Ever feel like your mind is running 5 tabs at once, all buffering at different speeds? One's about emails, another's replaying something awkward you said at work yesterday, and there's always that persistent tab wondering about snacks. Welcome to being human. But here's the thing, it doesn't have to stay this chaotic. Now, before you start thinking this is going to be some mystical journey about incense and enlightenment, let me be crystal clear. You don't need a robe, a guru, or a Himalayan cave to start meditating. You don't even need to sit cross-legged on the floor. In fact, I'm going to show you how to start a real meditation practice using nothing more than a regular chair and 3 minutes of your day. I've been meditating for over 7 years now, but there were long periods in the beginning when my practice would slip away, and I still have days when my mind feels like a train station at rush hour. The difference is, now I know that's not a problem to solve. It's just the human condition. And meditation is about meeting what is, with more clarity and a lot less stress. By the end of this video, you'll have everything you need to start meditating today. Not someday when your life gets less busy, not when you finally have the perfect setup, but literally today. I'm going to give you the exact practice, show you how to troubleshoot the weird stuff your mind will do, and set you with a practice that actually works. So let's start by clearing up the biggest myths that keep people from even trying. Here's the first one. Meditation is about having 0 thoughts. That's not a thing. If you're alive, your brain is going to think. That's literally its job. Expecting your mind to go blank is like expecting your heart to stop beating. I can't tell you how many people have said to me, I tried meditation, but I'm terrible at it because my mind wouldn't stop thinking. That's like saying you're bad at going to the gym because your muscles got tired. The thinking isn't the problem, it's the raw material you're working with. The second myth, meditation is supposed to make you feel relaxed and blissful. Sometimes it does, and that's nice. But some days you'll sit down and feel like your brain is trying to narrate your entire life in fast forward while simultaneously planning next week's grocery list. Both experiences are completely normal and equally valuable. The third myth, meditation is inherently spiritual or religious. Look, it can be if you want it to be, but it doesn't have to be. At its core, meditation is just training your attention. That's it. You don't need to believe in anything or bow or do anything else that might make you uncomfortable. So what is meditation actually? Here's the definition I come back to over and over. Meditation is the practice of noticing, without judgment, what is happening right now. That's it. No special breathing, no mantras you can't pronounce, no pretzel positions. Just noticing what's here, right now, without immediately trying to fix it or change it or escape from it. Think of it like this. You brush your teeth every day. You probably trim your nails once a week. This is basic physical hygiene. Meditation is a kind of mental hygiene. Throughout the day, your mind picks up stress, reactivity, random anxieties about things that probably won't happen, and that voice that won't stop commenting on everything. Meditation helps rinse some of that out. It's more like sitting on a riverbank and watching your thoughts float by, without jumping in after them. A thought about work shows up. You notice it, but you don't chase after it. A memory pops up. You see it, but you don't get lost reliving it. You're training yourself to be the observer, not the victim of whatever your mind decides to serve up. There's a Zen proverb I love. You should sit in meditation for 20 minutes every day, unless you're too busy. Then you should sit for an hour. Now, that's obviously a joke. Nobody's asking you to meditate for an hour. But the point is real. The busier we are, the more scattered we feel, the more we actually need these moments of stillness. Now you might be thinking, okay, this sounds nice in theory, but does this stuff actually work or is it just feel-good BS? Fair question. Let me give you some actual science because the research on meditation is pretty convincing. Harvard neuroscientist Sarah Lazar took brain scans of people before and after an 8-week meditation program. What she found was remarkable. Meditation literally changes your brain structure. The areas responsible for attention, sensory processing, and emotional regulation actually got thicker. Meanwhile, the amygdala, that's your brain's alarm system that fires off when you're stressed, shrank. Researchers found that people who meditate also have less inflammation in their bodies. Stanford studies show it improves focus and reduces mind wandering. There's research from the University of Wisconsin showing it boosts immune function. This isn't woo-woo mysticism, this is peer-reviewed, published science. But here's what I want you to understand. The benefits start showing up much sooner than 8 weeks for most people, just not always where you expect them. In the first week, you might not feel dramatically different during meditation. Your mind will still wander. You might even feel more aware of how noisy your thoughts actually are. That's okay. You're developing mental peripheral vision, the ability to notice what your mind is doing instead of just being dragged around by it. By weeks 2 and 3, you might catch yourself in the middle of a reactive moment and think, wait, let me pause here. Or you'll notice that you're not quite as bothered by that thing your coworker does that usually drives you crazy. After about a month, the real magic starts happening in daily life. You'll find yourself responding instead of reacting. That email that would have sent you into a stress spiral, you read it, take a breath, and respond thoughtfully instead of firing back immediately. Here's the thing, I wish someone had told me when I started. Meditation isn't about feeling different, it's about responding differently. The goal isn't to become some Zen master who never gets annoyed. The goal is to have a little space between what happens to you and how you react to it. That space, even if it's just a split second, is the key. Alright, enough theory. Let's get practical. I'm going to teach you a meditation practice so simple that if you've got 2 or 3 minutes and a place to sit, you can start right now. Here's what you need. A chair, that's it. Sit down with your feet flat on the floor and your hands resting in your lap. You can close your eyes if that feels comfortable, but I'd recommend you keep your eyes open to reduce sleepiness. Soften your gaze and look down at a spot on the floor a few feet in front of you. Now bring your attention to your breath. You don't need to breathe in any special way, just breathe normally and notice what that feels like. Maybe you feel the air moving in and out of your nostrils. Maybe you notice your chest rising and falling. Maybe you feel your belly expanding and contracting. Pick one of those spots and just rest your attention there. Here's what's going to happen next. Thoughts will show up. They always do. When they do, and this is the key part, you just notice them. You might think, oh, there's a thought about dinner. Or you can just say to yourself, very gently, thinking. Then you guide your attention back to your breath. That's it. That gentle return to the breath. That's the entire practice. You're not trying to stop thoughts from coming. You're not fighting them or pushing them away. You're just practicing the skill of noticing when your mind has wandered and then choosing to come back to your breath. Every single time you notice you've drifted and returned to breathing, you're strengthening your awareness. Every return is a victory, not a failure. Some of you might find it helpful to count your breaths. Breathe in, that's 1. Breathe out, that's 2. Go up to 10, then start over. If you lose count, just start over at 1. The counting isn't the point, it's just something to give your mind a job. Okay, let's try this right now. We'll set a timer for 2 minutes and share a micro-meditation. Don't worry about doing it perfectly. There is no perfect. Just sit, breathe, notice when your mind wanders, and gently come back. The chime will let you know when our 2 minutes is up. So, how was that? If your mind wandered 50 times in 2 minutes, congratulations, you just had a completely normal meditation experience. If you felt restless or bored or like you were doing it wrong, also completely normal. The fact that you noticed these things means you were actually paying attention, which is exactly the point. Now, here's how to make this a habit that actually sticks. Tie it to something you already do every day. Maybe it's right after you brush your teeth in the morning. Maybe it's while you brew your first cup of tea or coffee. The key is picking something you never skip, and then do your meditation immediately after that trigger. As for tools, you've got options. If you like apps, Insight Timer has thousands of free guided meditations. Headspace and Calm are popular for a reason. Plum Village has beautiful, simple practices. But honestly, your phone's timer works just fine. And here's a little secret. You can meditate anywhere. Waiting for the train, 3 conscious breaths, standing in line at the grocery store, notice your feet on the ground, sitting in your car before a big meeting. 1 minute of just breathing. The formal practice builds your strength, but the informal practice throughout the day is where the real transformation happens. Now, let's review what is likely to happen when you start doing this. Because if I don't prepare you for the reality of meditation, you're going to sit down tomorrow, have a completely normal experience, and think you're doing it wrong. Here's the scene. You sit down feeling motivated, maybe even excited. You bring your attention to your breath, and within about 30 seconds you're planning dinner, remembering that weird thing your colleague said and wondering if foxes can yawn. Then you catch yourself and think, I'm terrible at this. Stop right there. You're not terrible at this. You just experienced meditation. That moment when you noticed your mind had wandered. That's not the failure, that's the practice. Every time you notice you've drifted off and gently come back to your breath, you're doing a mental rep. In week 1, your mind is going to feel like an overly excited puppy. You might also become hyper-aware of how noisy your thoughts actually are. Before you started paying attention, all this mental chatter was just background noise. Now you're noticing it, and it might feel overwhelming. Week 2 and 3, you might start having moments where you actually feel present with your breath. Don't get attached to these moments. You might also notice little shifts in daily life. Maybe you don't immediately react when someone cuts you off in traffic. These are tiny victories that are easy to miss. Around week 4, if you've been consistent, something interesting starts to happen. You begin to develop a kind of mental peripheral vision. You start noticing your thoughts and emotions as they arise, instead of just being swept away by them. That awareness, that little gap between what's happening and your reaction to it, is everything. Progress in meditation is almost invisible day to day. It's like watching grass grow. You don't notice it happening until one day you look back and realize something fundamental has shifted. Let's now talk about 4 common obstacles. First, I can't stop fidgeting. You don't have to sit perfectly still like a statue. If you need to adjust your posture or scratch an itch, just do it mindfully. Notice the sensation, make the adjustment, and come back to your breath. Second, I feel anxious when I focus on my breath. Some people find breath focus uncomfortable. No problem. Try keeping your focus on sounds around you instead of breath. There's no meditation police enforcing breath-only rules. Third, I keep falling asleep. Try sitting up straighter, opening your eyes slightly, or meditating earlier when you're more alert. Or you can just sleep. Perhaps that doze is what you really need right now. Fourth, my mind is too busy today. Busy mind days aren't obstacles to meditation. They're exactly when meditation is most useful. Don't wait for the perfect mental weather to start. As you get comfortable with 2 or 3 minutes, you might gradually extend it. Maybe try 5 minutes instead. After another 2 weeks, maybe 7 or 10. But only increase if you're actually showing up consistently at the shorter duration. And what about when you miss days? Because you will. Don't beat yourself up. Don't think you've ruined everything. Don't start over from day 1. Just sit down the next day and continue. Consistency is more important than perfection. Now, let's talk about bringing this practice into the rest of your life. Pick 3 everyday activities and turn them into informal mindfulness practices. Washing dishes, feel the warm water, notice the soap bubbles. Walking to your office, Feel your feet hitting the ground. Notice the temperature of the air. Drinking your morning coffee. Actually taste it. Feel the warmth of the mug. Here's one of my favorites. The red light meditation. Every time you're stopped at a red light, instead of checking your phone, just sit there and breathe. Feel your hands on the steering wheel. This turns every red light from an annoying delay into a little gift of presence. Or try the first 3 breaths practice. When you wake up, before you reach for your phone, take 3 conscious breaths. When you sit down at your computer, 3 breaths before you open your email. These tiny moments add up to a completely different relationship with your day. The beauty of informal practice is that it doesn't require any extra time. You're already washing dishes, walking places, and drinking coffee. You're just learning to be present for these activities instead of mentally elsewhere. As your practice develops, you might find yourself naturally sitting for longer periods or wanting to explore different types of meditation, but don't get ahead of yourself. Master the basics first. Show up consistently for a few minutes each day. Learn to notice when your mind wanders and gently return to your breath. Everything else is just elaboration on this simple, profound practice of paying attention. You have everything you need to start. You don't need to wait for the perfect time, the perfect space, or the perfect mental state. You don't need to read more books, buy any equipment, or figure out the meaning of life. You just need to sit down, breathe, and pay attention to what's happening right now. The person you are right now, with all your thoughts and worries and quirks and imperfections, is exactly the right person to start meditating. You don't need to wait until you're less busy, less stressed, or more spiritually inclined. You start from wherever you are, with whatever you've got. I'll leave you with something the Buddha said over 2,000 years ago that still feels as relevant today. Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. Your peace, your clarity, your ability to respond instead of react. It's not somewhere out there waiting for you to find it. It's right here, in this breath, in this moment, available to you anytime you choose to pay attention.